UArts drummers. So yeah, I'm going to cover a whole bunch of fundamental things today. If these are things that you already know, then play everything with one hand, or put your brush between your toes and try it that way. You can play on all different drums on your kit too if you're at your kit, but I'm going to stick mostly with the snare drum. The first thing I wanted to talk about, and I know this is always challenging for a presenter because some of you probably have a lot of experience brush playing, and some people I know have literally said the phrase to me, well, I have these, and that's the extent of their experience. So it's a little tricky to navigate that and make it super effective for everybody, but hopefully these tips and ideas will help inspire and inform you to go seek out your own path. And there are so many ways and so many approaches to brushes. There's not actually, I have never found an exact core of information that's universal to brush playing like there is for stick playing. So I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different things, and everything I say, do it your way, because the only reason, and I tell this to my students all the time, for practicing and learning technique is so you can execute the music in the most creative, inspired way possible. That's what chops are for. So that's what this is for. So the kind of brushes you pick are very important. They have to feel great in your hand. I play a Vic Firth Heritage brush that's modeled after the very old-fashioned, very, very flexible light wire. I don't know what you guys are playing, but the length of the rubber, or if you have a wooden shaft or a hard plastic, it doesn't matter. Whatever feels the best in your hand. And then you'll notice if you play with brushes with much stiffer wire, like Jeff Hamilton's Regal tip brush is coming to mind. He is one of my favorite players. The wires on his brush are so stiff, it's like playing with a stick. It's got a really, he doesn't make them sound harsh, but when I try to play with them, I was just talking to Steve about this, they sound very, very hard on the drum head, and I don't like that sound. I like this old-fashioned kind of light sound. So pick a brush that feels good in your hands. Mine are real ratty. I don't know how you guys feel, but when you get your favorite stick and it starts to wear out, the sticks that feel the best to you, and then you got to change to a new pair, I always feel reluctant to do that, even with my brushes, even when all the wires are sticking out. So anyway, you're getting my favorite pair of brushes here. So I like to, there's the 3 basic staccato strokes I want to talk about. One is using the tip of the brush. These are the names I call them in my mind. You can call them whatever you want. The tip stroke, so everybody think about using the very top of your brush and play light. You can play at any angle. You can play straight up with stick technique this way, or you can go sideways motion, which is kind of how I like to play often with that movement, but light and feathers. So everybody give that a shot. Your tip sound. That way, any angle. And when you guys do this, you can practice going this way. You can go away from you. You can go come towards you. You can go sideways, anywhere on the head, and experiment with this. And you're going to get all sorts of different shapes and sounds going. So that's like a tip, a feather sound. And there's the basic. I call it a tap, and that's just like most of the wire or the fan hits the head. So here's the tip again. So I'll show you the contrast. Tip. Then this tap sound. Tip, tap, tip, tap. Everybody give that a try, just on your own. Tip and tap, and hear 2 distinct sounds. I'm playing with my snares off because I think you can hear the resonance a little bit better. Tip and tap. And when you're doing this, also everybody, everything that you do with your stick, as far as stick control or wrist development and fingers, you can do the same thing. You can pay attention if you're using your wrist, using your fingers, even a push-pull. You can practice all of those techniques with brushes at different angles. Push, finger, whatever works for you. But make sure you're, applying all of that stuff that you've done with sticks, do it with the brushes. And then there's kind of a slap sound. You can do a slap sound opened or closed. And when I play that, I think about the whole wire fans. I was going to say smashing in the head, but that's not exactly right. But so where the wire hits the rubber on the brush, kind of that's the slap sound to me. So again, tip. Tap, slap, tip, tap, slap. Those are 3 distinct sounds for staccato. And then the other tap is like a dead stroke. This. Tip, tap, slap, and dead. A slap stroke, a dead stroke. So those are those 3 or 4, I guess, 4 really basic strokes. The dead stroke sound Jeff Hamilton calls that a nudge. So when you're playing along. That kind of, I like the term nudge. You kind of nudge your stick in there. So before we do this short exercise, do you guys have any questions about those strokes? Anybody? And they're really clearly distinct sounds. And one of the things that's amazing about brushes, and you can get a lot of different sound and effects with sticks too, but they're really, I mean, the array of color you can get out of brushes is quite extraordinary. And you, like when we're doing this exercise now, we're going to play these basic divisions of the quarter note. We're going to start with quarter notes. It's on the sheet I sent you, and you can add quintuplets and septuplets when you feel like it. But we're going to just do these basic divisions now. So quarter note, triplet, eighth note, triplet, 16th note, triplet, and 32nd notes. So when you're doing this, we're going to do 4 measures of each of these. I want you guys to think an experiment. Like there's the 4 strokes we just talked about. So staccato. So use those in this exercise. Do it. Do some tips, some taps, some slaps, and some dead strokes. So I'm going to put the metronome on 84. And we're going to 4 bars of each of these, and you can add dynamics, and these are all staccato tap strokes. And I'm going to just switch back and forth between different strokes so you can hear them. But everybody, I'll count us in. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just right, left, right. Tip, tap, quarter note triplets, eighth notes, note triplets, sixteenth notes, note triplets, seconds. Okay. How'd everybody do with that? Pretty cool. Good, good. So when you practice this on your own, any tempo. Sometimes when I do this exercise, I really challenge myself. Sometimes I start with a whole note. And what does that mean? If someone's asking you to play staccato, and of course that has to do with your arm movement, because the downstroke and the upstroke, or the stroke and the rebound, all inform the music the way that the entirety of your physiology is moving. So, and definitely when you do that at your drum set, orchestrate that all around the kit, add a ton of dynamics, and as we progress through these different strokes and stickings, you would for sure add a whole bunch of different articulations. So let's do the same thing with double strokes now. Same exercise, and you can always phrase lead with your left hand if you like. You don't have to start with your right hand, of course. So for doubles on the brushes, I use the same technique that I do with sticks, except I think of it as skipping a rock. So this way. Some people like to go this way. But it's a lot to do with fingers, because these brushes, especially when you're using a lighter, more traditional brush, they don't bounce unless you do this. I mean, everyone, you can actually do this, and this is a cool sound though if you want to go straight on stick technique. If you do this, I mean, I'm kind of just playing with the rubber part. You know, that's okay. You can hear the difference. And with your left hand, if you're playing traditional grip, it's you use your I use my thumb a lot for this, not even so much my fingers in this case. And it's what Mel Lewis, when he played, was one of my teachers, and he played a lot with his thumb and finger control with his left hand. But whatever your approach, and once again, encouragement to do this all over the place. Exaggerate your movements. I've seen a lot of brush players do this. coming towards you, away from you. Is it like a circle, like a barrel roll? And some of it's motion. It's kind of motion because of emotion. I'm going to use that word, and music is very emotional for all of us. So whatever direction you're moving in that feels really good and natural to you, as long as it's sounding the way you like, you can't go wrong as far as I'm concerned. So just fool around and see what feels best to you. So let's do the same exercise, same tempo. And again, we're still with mostly staccato strokes, but you'll hear if you go with a side sweep, a lateral movement, it's a little bit more, it's a little softer articulation then. It's got like a little to it instead of it's so. But we're not into full sweeps yet. So let's do this same exercise starting with quarter notes. 1, 2, right, right. Here we go. Right, right. All right. How is everybody? Everybody looks fabulous. That feel okay to everybody? And I said this before, but do this at all different tempos. I mean, I once attempted to play with my trio, actually, and I was playing brushes. Quarter note equals 30. Now, it was so hard. It took about, I'm going to say probably 4 measures before we played one single quarter note together. So it was sort of humorous. But practice at very slow tempos. That, as you know, I think once you have some of your technique together, playing slow is far more challenging than playing fast, truthfully, because there's a lot of space that you have time to screw up in between the notes or make something great happen. So really, you know, when you're all different tempos, so whatever your chops can handle, but challenge yourself on both sides of the spectrum. Okay, now let's move on to the sweeping strokes. Again, and I you can read it on the handout, but also something that makes a big difference is the angle of the brush, the fan to the head. And in this case, some of these sweeps, my hand is going to be like this instead of like this. Most of the time, this is preferred close to the head. But, you know, again, do what feels comfortable to you. You don't want to be doing this. Although I watched a video not too long ago of a guy doing tons and tons of backsticking, like marching band backsticking, or whatever. I just call it, backsticking, like drum corps stuff with brushes. It's really cool. I can't do that. I don't do that. But anyway, pay attention to the angle of the brush and the fan to the head when we're doing this next exercise. So we're going to sweep. We're going to sweep for each of these subdivisions. We're going to go one direction, then the second note we're going to go the other direction. All right. So quarter notes, and you're going to do it. I want you to try this 2 ways during the course of this exercise. We're going to do 4 measures with our right hand, then 4 measures with our left hand. We're going to sweep across the head without lifting the brush. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pay attention to when you're doing this. Am I moving just my wrist or my fingers, which you can do it like that, or you can move your whole shoulder and elbow. We're going to do that with both hands, and then you're going to do, like I said, not lifting the brush, and then also lifting the brush. 1, 2, like you're brushing something off the drum head. And go any direction. It doesn't matter. Right to left, left to right, all these subdivisions. When you get to 16th note triplets, to do this, I'm going to use mostly my wrist, but do quarter note triplets with your wrist in one direction. Everything we're going to be doing unless you can do it with multiple wrist movements, but I don't. I do them this way. So if we're playing a 16th note, we'll still be going in this direction. 1 E and a 2 E. Right. I'm brushing left, right. Which if you watch some Brazilian drummers, you probably see that technique quite a bit. When you get to the 16th note triplets, I'm going to push my wrist in one direction in 8th note triplets, and then the back sweep is going to get me the 16th note triplet. 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. So I'm moving in one direction like this. So the back stroke is getting that. And then with 32nd notes, same thing. 3, 4. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a. But you hear the back stroke is getting the 32nd note. And it's good to practice these sweeps in time too, because that like not dissimilar to practicing a buzz roll. When you're playing a buzz roll on the snare drum, it's not just willy-nilly or free-for-all. Usually you're paying attention to your wrist pulses. So that's sort of what this is like. So we're going to do 4 measures with 4 measures on the right, 4 measures on the left, through this sequence again, and again opposite directions until when you get up to the 16th note, 16th note triplet. Move your wrist in one direction in 8th note triplets, but leave the brush on the head. And same thing with 32nd notes. And practice with the fan on the head and the fan off the head. So same thing. Here we go. Right hand. 1, 2, sweep away. Here we go. Sweep. Left hand. Quarter note triplets. Any questions about that? How'd that feel to everyone? Fabulous. Good. When I was experimenting with the way I was moving around the head, I watched this great guy that teaches at Berkeley, John Hazilla, has a really good book, and he starts out with his hands on the drums, and he said basically move your hands any direction that you can move your hands is a good way to practice fanning the brushes around. But with this, you can see I was using mostly my wrist, so I would practice this direction, which all of us could probably do fairly easily at this point. And how do it's the same movement, but with my hand in a different position. My wrist is still moving the same way. And if you play matched grip, it's an easy transition. I mean, you could use your fingers too, but with traditional grip, it doesn't translate exactly the same, but it's more of a matched grip movement. But I pull my wrist toward. I move towards myself when I play, so this way. There you go. Actually, that was just my fingers. Or all wrist. So pay attention if you're using your wrist or your fingers. Sometimes I've seen people play and this happens. They're trying to do that or a trill or whatever. And they do this. And their shoulder starts going. And you're moving, you feel all this tension flow out of your arm. Don't get that. So just, whatever. If it's your fingers, you can practice with all your fingers. Here's my left hand. This finger, this finger, this finger, this finger. I keep mine usually between my middle finger and my ring finger when I do that. Which I don't do on sticks. It's different. But anyway, you guys can work on that. Okay, so, whoops, one second. I yanked my headphone wire out. Hang on a second. I hate when that happens. Oh, I did it again. Sorry about that. So a cool thing to practice for some of these sweeping things, I mentioned the Ted Reed book, which we all have. I don't know if you guys have this page handy, but the thing I sent, the 48-bar exercise, check this out for practicing these sweeps and taps, and you can do it with one hand or you can do it with both hands. I'm just going to do I'll change every line. We're just going to do like the first 4 lines of this. We're not going to spend a ton of time. You can practice this. Anything in the Reed book, and I would start at the beginning with just the quarter notes. And this is just for practicing strokes. So if everybody has that page up, if you don't, you can just listen along. This is page 29. I believe it. I don't know what edition of the book you have, but it starts with 2 quarter notes and an 8th note. It starts with bop, 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 bop. So if you have that, now again, we're trying to get the unique qualities of the brushes. So all those 4 tap staccato strokes we talked about and these sweeping strokes, you apply all of those to this, and you come up with your own way of practicing. You can say, I'm going to do these with all sweeping motions. I'm going to do a combination of, tip, tap, slap, and sweep. The way that you practice all of this, when any of these things that you apply different patterns to, you come up with your own. Or you can just practice this page multiple ways, using all sweeps, all taps, all slaps, all tips, whatever you like. But anyway, let's just everybody try this, and using your own unique combination, just improvise. But please try not to just play this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Don't play it like you're playing with sticks. Use the things that we just talked about. So here's here's an example. Let me show you the first measure. So I might do this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 1 and 2 and 3. I'm kind of making the quarter notes all very long. You guys could do that if you want to try. But let's try to play this together, just the first 4 measures. All right? First 4 lines. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so it'd be fun to hear some of you guys play that. Next time, as soon as we can get in person, hopefully we'll be able to share some stuff like this live. so we can all hear each other. But so some of you guys heard some of the stuff I did, even if it's a string of eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and, trying to change between all the different strokes. So I find this to be a really, really fun thing to practice. And I don't know what you actually call this, but I don't know. And it feels easier to me, this stroke. Just the back and forth, but really lifting the brush. So to do 16th notes like a digga digga dot dot digga digga dot dot. Those are good exercises to work on, and you can use the whole read book like that. Now, to practice some of the double strokes before we move on to some patterns, everybody, you probably have, I'm sure everybody played 3 camps. We don't have to play a lot of that, but that's good, especially for jazz playing. Just take those triplets in 3 camps. Everybody knows that piece, I think, and most of you do, right? Pretty standard. Or any Will Coxon piece is great to play brushes. Kenny Washington, if you listen to his playing, and actually Steve Smith too. They're playing with Kenny Washington, especially with sticks too, is very, very deeply rooted in rhythmic playing, in a different way than Philly Joe was, but. Anyway, very, very unique and amazing player. But this I like because it swings hard. Everybody knows. So just take those 3 camps triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Want to try that together? So it's a right, left, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, left, right, in a triplet phrasing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now let's do the other one. That's right, right, left, left, right, with the accent on the last note. Swings the hardest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's go back and forth between those two. Right, and if not, this is not in 3 camps, but to add that to your repertoire, do that same pattern, the 5-stroke roll in triplet, but accent the middle note. 3. So this is. So it's what triplet, triplet. So you accent the first note. I'll do a measure of each of those. Everybody get that exercise? Some people really ignore the middle note of the triplet. Not Elvin Jones, but other people do. So try to check that out as an exercise. It's a really, really fun one. And another thing for doubles I like to play, actually you use it for sticks all the time, is rolling in rhythm. Do you guys have that handy? All my students have this, that I'm probably driving them insane with this, but this is a great one to practice too, and I use this, like I mentioned, with sticks, but this, I'll go a little bit peppy here, but it's all, and you probably have practiced it this way, so forgive me, and I don't have my tom here, but do this and put the accents on the tom-toms. Then a really cool way to do this with brushes and sticks is roll on your mounted tom, everyone, and put the accents on the floor tom and the snare drum, then roll on your floor tom and put the accents on the high tom and the snare drum. So it's always pulling your body in different movements, and this thing on the drums, this movement is not always natural. So when you practice it those 3 ways. So let's do this kind of bright if you're struggling along. Good, because when we struggle, we're heading for something great. That's what I say when you're practicing. Again, I know that Mark's workshop about practicing and effective practicing, and the main thing to remember is you're practicing because you're not good at something. That's why I practice. So if you're struggling with any of this, good, go practice it. So let's go rolling in rhythm. How about this tempo? Nice and maybe this is 120 or something. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? I don't want to play the whole thing, but work on that. Work on all different tempos for yourself. Another fun. There's so many ways to do this, and I know that Steve said we had about 45 minutes. So, how much time do we have now, Steve? I can't see my clock. Hopefully, Steve is still there. Steve?
It's 12:06 right now.
Oh, thanks, man. Okay, so let's talk about the basic patterns now. These are the way. This is how I do it, you guys. And I go clockwise and counterclockwise. When I first started learning brushes, I played counterclockwise, and I was thinking today, I can't remember the teacher that showed me that. When I got to grad school, I went to NYU. My first teacher was Mel Lewis. I appeared at the drums, and he said, "Play me some brushes," and I started like this. And he looked at my left hand, and his exact words to me, "What are you, stupid? What are you doing that for?" And it made me, that was his teaching methodology. It was very full of sarcasm and humor. So that made me laugh that was his first comment. But he made me, in the truest sense, spin clockwise. It's one of those things that I did because I revered Mel Lewis, but I didn't want to do it, but I did it. So my message to you is whatever way you spin your hand in the swirling hand, totally cool as long as the music sounds good. Actually, I love Mark and Steve both have really cool brush videos. There can be any different pattern from an oval, from again, we use the clock face, from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, clockwise or counterclockwise, doesn't matter. It can be this way, any direction, as long as it sounds good. I actually approach this, and Jeff Hamilton showed me this. It's a small circle. That's why I wrote it in very simple terms. Small circle on 1 and 3, big circle on 2 and 4, and try to make it in smooth quarter notes. So just for the sake of it, you guys can swirl, and you don't have to do this, but I'll show it to you anyway. And I'm going to put an accent on every quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Little circle, big circle, little circle, big circle, little circle, big circle. Without an accent. But I sort of like this because it gives you that little natural accent on 2 and 4, just because you're using a bigger stroke. And I'm swirling around the entire drum head. I'm not staying in this little pocket here. I like that movement. And you could, as far as I'm concerned, if you're doing this in a band, this feels good. The time is coming right out of that. And try, I meant to mention this before, everyone. If you push, the pressure is what can change your dynamics. Obviously, everybody probably knows that. If no pressure, the more pressure you put down, the louder the stroke can be. So you can fiddle around with that while you're playing too. In these pattern exercises we're about to do. So in my right hand, again, same thing. Any direction that feels good. I play the standard ride pattern, sometimes like this. 1, 2, 3. I skip my stick to the left and let it just bounce across the head like this. Sometimes I do this. 1. Depends on the tempo. So we'll start this together. Let's start this together about that, whatever tempo this is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Start your swirling hand is swirling. Make sure that sounds great. Not like this. Not that. 1, 2, 3. You want everybody to be able to hear that. Nice gliding time. Now let's do our right hand for a second alone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Together. And your hands cross. Good. Okay. Do you guys anybody have a question about that? It can be oval, and you don't want this to sound like. I would not think that this would be a good use of playing brushes like for jazz time, to miss out on the tone of the color of the brushes to do this. But you could, but I don't know why. You might. That might be a sound. that, but that if you like that sound. But I'm just mentioning again, I have the snares off because I like how it makes the drum resonate. Sometimes I start that way, and when I want to add energy or a layer of kick it up a notch, I put my snare on. So you can hear if I'm just. The snare is added, it like, to me it adds, because the pitch goes up a little bit, kind of adds a layer of energy. But when I'm practicing, I always practice with the snares off. So that pattern I just showed you, I do quite a bit for, let me see. You can do it, let me put I'm going to put the metronome on 80 for this tempo. Slow tempos. Double time, that. Same thing, but except instead of, when I'm doing that, we go into, like, that'd be 160. 1, 2, 3, 4. The circle I still do a small circle and a big circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, but they just become a little bit smaller. Try this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so swirling quarter notes work, and let me just say this again, and you guys, all those books and lessons I put on the back of this page, you're going to look at it. And sometimes when I look at these things and I see these looks like crazy football plays, it drives me insane, and I find it very challenging to look at those and, like, look at my drum head and figure out what's happening. So that's why the videos I put on there are helpful. I love, oh my gosh, Alexandru, do you know Florin? I forgot his last name. His book is great, and his video accompanying is fantastic. Like, every stroke is shown from all different angles. It's a really good book, and it's very contemporary. It's not like we're talking about a lot of very traditional stuff. His book is, like, deep into, funk and all other variations of pop and rock music. It's really, really, really good. But Ed Thigpen has a great video. Ed Soph has a much different approach to brush playing, and Peter Erskine has a good one. But investigate them on your own, and you'll find a whole bunch of different ways, and then adapt them to work for yourself. Just let me show you this ballad playing. It starts like, for me, it's some people call it a figure 8 or over and under. It's not exactly a figure 8 when I play it, but it starts like this. In slow motion without you doing a full ballad stroke. My right hand is over my left hand. I pull the brushes apart, then I put my left hand over my right hand. Then I pull them apart, then I put my right hand over my left, pull it apart, left hand over right. So that ends up being like this. 1, 2, and I'm taking this motion that I just showed you without lifting the brush up. So right hand over, left hand over. Yeah, I guess people call this over under, but when you look at your hands, they're actually making a figure 8. And then just expand that stroke. I love that stroke. Okay, so that's that. Everybody good with that one? Man, there's a bunch of brush geniuses at UArts. That's so cool. By the way, these heads that I have are Aquarian Modern Vintage. I love them. I have them on all of my drums. They come in all different thicknesses, and they're really nice, like simulated calf. When I play fast, I depending on the tempo, I more or less keep the regular brush pattern going. Often when I leap into it, I start my stroke on 2. It's a lot of fingers, and this hand spins in half notes, on like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's got a push on 2. So this is an exercise I like to play. I'm going to do 4 measures. I'll put this on 80 again. 4 measures at 80, then I'll do double time, then I'll do double time again. And this is a good exercise to practice with sticks too. We can try it together. 4 measures of 4, 4, 8 measures of double time, then 16 bars of double time again. So let's see what that sounds like together. Okay, so here's the quarter note. Nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm doing that swirl stroke. 3, 1, 2, double time. Double time again. Back. And then I'm not going to take you through the whole thing. So you do that in a sequence up and down. But you know what, the trick to this, you guys, and for all brush playing, and I know that we have talked a lot as a department about recording ourselves. A lot of times when I hear myself playing, and I know this to be true, the simpler that you play on the brushes to establish the groove, this is probably true on drum set when you're playing with sticks too, the better it sounds. If I start playing, and especially when I was younger, but even now on some fairly recent recordings, I'm like, damn it, Sherrie, why'd you do that? Because this sounds amazing. And maybe to you, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so simple. How can I just do this for, like, my God, 16 bars without throwing in stuff? No one needs that. Really, and I get so bugged at myself because I do that sometimes. I'm like, oh man, I have to do something so hip. It's like, no, I don't, because that just destroyed this amazingness of this. And at a PASIC conference once, Jeff Hamilton was doing something like, I'm not kidding you guys. I mean, I don't know what they were. I forgot what they were playing. But if you want to listen to something amazing, listen to his version. Couple things. The duo with Steve Smith on Salt Peanuts. Jeff Hamilton playing C-Jam blues at this tempo. Boot up. Maybe slower. Zoot up. And then they keep displacing the melody. Check that out for a slow tempo. And then listen to him play Apple Honey. That's probably quarter note equals, I don't know, 3, well, maybe pushing close to 400 in the mid threes. It was pretty awesome. But anyway, the simplicity when you practice this exercise, Jeff said, Jeff, how do you do this? He goes, because it's my intention to make this sound amazing. And it does, and it never fails. It will sound amazing, and just to make yourself play the basic groove without adding any stuff to it until it's necessary. And this too, and this. When you get into the double time, you guys just keeping that pattern without changing it, because it's easy to go. You can add a whole bunch of stuff, but keep that ride going and keep it steady. I challenge myself to practice that stuff, because like I said, you want to go off and add your stuff, but add the hipness and whatever you're doing, but add it after you can make sure that you can really establish the groove. Some cool ways to comp with this, by the way, take the John Riley book, take the Reed book, I have it over, comping one from the Riley book. I'll just play a couple of these for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Pop, pop. Just those are the nudges I was telling about. Just like play some time, find a page with a bunch of rhythms on it, and just try to accent them with your brushes. Do you guys have any questions so far?
Yeah, when you're doing when you're playing more up or more sort of like busier with your right hand, like playing every swing beat, whatever. Are you still trying to maintain that lateral motion as much as you can, or does that become more of an up and down stroke?
This is exactly it. And I was mentioning to before, I often, if I know I'm going to start a fast tempo, I start on. I don't do it this way. I do it 1, because similar to when I play with sticks, I do the exact same thing. I move my wrist twice in a measure, and use my fingers on the and of 2 and and of 4. 1.
Okay.
So my brush is in. A little bit more straight up and down, but it's still
cool.
think I saw Steve Smith talked about. He said Jeff Hamilton showed this to him. He didn't show this to me, but Steve Smith said he keeps his middle finger, and this is a video I watched him on the ball at the end of the brush, and uses his finger like finger tension. Almost
Cool.
I haven't accomplished that or mastered that at all, but it's definitely. Steve Fiddick, you put on that crazy video of you playing quarter note. I think what we were playing is about quarter note equals 320, which is fast enough. But your thing, do you do with your hand? Do you use that? I mean, the same thing I was just talking about. I think you had like 344, something crazy. I just saw you on YouTube of you.
Yeah, that was at 344, but I was using an old Ludwig brush, which I don't even know if they make them anymore. But it has a very thin and light fan, sort of opposite of what Hamilton uses. I mean, his fans are so thick, like you were mentioning earlier in the class. This fan has so much flex to it, and it makes it easier to play that 6-note pattern at that fast rate, which is articulate. I think it's articulate, but
yeah,
I think the flex of the fan has a lot to do with it, and finding a brush that allows that much wobble in the fan, I think is helpful for me.
Yeah, and there's no, that's what you have to just practice that, like the way exactly like you got your tempo speed up on your ride cymbal, and and you might say to yourself, oh my God, this feels so easy to go this way or whatever's going to give you the most, the effective way to execute the music. I don't know, like people often use the term so much, and I know for the cheat stroke, and I think what Ed Sof actually, and I'm pretty sure he does this because he uses both hands very integrated. He doesn't really separate them as much as we're talking about right now. And I have not studied with him or watched his brush playing lessons extensively, but he's got a different approach using both hands very interchangeably. But so if you're playing a tempo, and you guys probably know Warren Wolf. I can't remember what tune it is. It might be something like Cherokee. Something's on YouTube of him playing quarter note equals 400. It's completely ridiculous. It reminds me of this Max Roach version of I think this song is You. It's so fast you can barely identify anything in it. But look for Warren Wolf playing 400. It's just an insane display of technique. But anyway, so if you're playing real fast, you probably all know people call this the cheat stroke. But I mean, it sounds good. If somebody wants you to play brushes at that tempo, I actually I do this, I pull it towards me because it feels good. Some people do it this way, that way, or this way. It doesn't matter. It's just one hand plays the 1 and 3, and the other hand plays 2 and the end of 2. I said you can amaze your friends and family at Thanksgiving. Spaz out your bass drum foot like this. That's funny. If anybody ever wants to play that fast, I've never played anything that fast. I've played a couple of things in the mid 300s, and I didn't know what tempo it was, but this one thing I did with my big band that's called a brush off. It's pretty fast, but it can be if in pandemic chops are not the same as regular when you have your gigging chops kind of on the top of your game, but. Again, if you come in and you're like, I got my brush chops together, I'm going to make the band play quarter note equals 360. Good luck with that. It's tricky. So and then we can talk about the specialty strokes briefly if you want to. But just if you're playing a bossa nova, many of you I'm sure have played, whether you can just sub out a brush for your stick. Yeah. Like that, and there's many layers in experimenting with that. The 2 brushes, the groove I put on the page here that I stole from Duduka's book, which probably a lot of you have, is one of my very favorite ones. And this is the motion. And the rhythm is this. But of course you wouldn't play it like that. But when you play it with the sweeping strokes, I do it this way. just playing a samba with all downbeats and all upbeats with brushes sounds really, really good. Again, you can use any of the books, the Reed or the Riley book. If I just play 4 downbeats and 4 upbeats with just the changing this, it's not the rhythm, is very simple. It's just changing it to the sweep instead of the, so that's, DeDuca's got some stuff in his book about that. But that's a really nice samba sound. Yeah, and I saw, there's a cool clip of Jojo Mayer demonstrating it's called the live wire brush. It's got a red handle by Vic Firth. I've played some slow, even eighth note things, not Brazilian oriented, but I've never played a funk tune with brushes, but I think I do. Watch Jojo Mayer's thing with these brushes. He's got some real cool funk things that I'm trying to learn how to play right now. And he's got a great thing on TEDx too, playing with brushes. I love his technique is so cool, and it's very, very, very different than Steve Smith's to me, which is very strongly articulated in a very, very good way. But Jojo does that too, but then he's got these amazing, like very traditional, cool sweep sounds and techniques that I really admire quite a bit. So, you guys, are you good? Do you have questions? You want to talk about a few of the specialty
I have
strokes?
a question.
Sure.
Sorry. Could you just talk a little more about just like comping while you're playing time, kind of like without disrupting the sweep of the left hand? Because I have a lot of trouble with that.
Yep. And this is a thing that that Jeff had that when I first studied with Jeff was at a summer music camp when I was between my senior year of high school and first year undergrad, and he had like 14 drummers in a line with a snare drum, and he would come up to each one of us and like play in our face and wanted us to play it back. It was terrifying. But anyway, this is one of the things he showed us. So if you're just doing your sweep, that like the small circle, big circle, and then just practice doing without doing this. Keep the swirl going. And what I'm thinking about is slamming. I'm going to use that because that's what it is. Slamming or pushing the rubber part of the brush into the head. So just swirl and practice playing. You're going to be 1, and then 2, 1, 2, 3, then 3, 1, 2, 3, then 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can do the ands, 3, 4. Well, you do have a little stop, 1 and then you try to keep the circle going. 2, 3, 4. So I'm pushing the rubber in there, and I'm just trying to keep the stroke going with it without making a pothole, just a slight speed bump. That's what I think. Like you're going to boop, boop instead of like you don't want it to come to a dead stop. So I would practice something like out of the Reed book, exercise 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, da da ba da bop 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 zoo dot dot zoo dot da doo dot boo dot, something like that. That's with the circular motion. But the same thing with that we did in the Reed the first time, with just the different kind of legato and staccato strokes. But that's a good question, and it's very analogous to when you're playing time on the drum, just regular with sticks and trying to comp, and like when you go to put something in a fill or some independence exercises, then the groove kind of goes, and you don't want to. Obviously, we never want that to happen. So I would start. I do when I'm learning something new. Start very slow, and just all right. All I'm going to do is accent beat 1 and not screw up this nice sweep I have going. 3, 4, 1. Right. 1 till that feels completely natural, and doesn't matter if you're swirling the other direction. counterclockwise, or some people do like a, this direction, an oval, whatever works. No fast. No, there are no rules. And I also, like when Mel Lewis, told me I was wrong. I don't know if it, again, the whole point is to make the music sound the way that you have it in your in your heart, in your head, and you make it come out your hands. So if somebody says, "Hey man, that's wrong," if it sounds great, it's not wrong. So take. I'm sure you all do this, and you just take everything from everybody and just use it to the best of your ability to, to make your unique sound, and come up with something cool that nobody's ever heard on the brushes before. There's so many, I mean, man, so many players I see and I watch play. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can do that. And this guy, his name is Rick Dior. I love his YouTube page too. He's got some amazing lessons, especially on Brazilian music with brushes. He's an excellent teacher. He's got a lot of cool strokes on there. And and before, you guys probably know these too, but before you start throwing in the stuff like the rim roll is fun to practice, and everybody knows that. But figure out how to use that effectively. You can't just like try to put it in a musical sense. Sometimes you can sometimes think of a melody. Dig-a-dot, 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 dot, dot. Just try to play it in time, or you can do it. Do it with both hands. That's really a fun stroke. The rim flex, like this. It's almost like doing that. I'm sure a lot of you have done like the one-handed, whatever that's called. So you can get as many tones as you can, like a buzz stroke. And then I like Ed Thigpen did a thing called the nerve. I can't really do it, but if you have a big hand, you can probably do this. And he had a really huge hand. His each finger was like some kind of a huge sausage or something. But he pressed his index finger very hard. He held this tight, and he goes, "Look!" I saw it again at a PASIC conference. He said, "I'm going to do the nerve," and his brush was like this, and it didn't look like it was moving. But when it hit the drum head, it went, and he was, I can't do it at all. I'm trying to. Just if you put a lot of tension here. Oh my God, I kind of could do it earlier today. This is a lame demonstration. See if you can find Ed Thigpen doing it. Push a lot of pressure on your index finger and get the fan to move, and then hit it to the brush. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. You can do rim shots. You guys probably know the obvious way would be this way. The way we always do it. But if you do it this way with the fan in the middle of the head, this is a cool effect too. Rim shots that way, kind of backwards. And your hand rests on the head. That's a nice sound. What else? The butterfly. This one too. I like this one. It's kind of this. Somebody calls this a butterfly or a bird. You can see both the fans flexing. That's kind of a nice sound. Again, finding musical applications of those. I do this sometimes in samba. I'm hitting the handle of the brush into the other handle, and one is kind of a dead stroking on the head. So I'm going to play with both fans, but I'm going to also hit this into like a rim shot. It's kind of a neat sound. But there's a whole bunch of those things. You can just type. Clayton Cameron's great brush player, has a lot of specialty strokes he does. But just like when you're throwing in something cool with your sticks, make sure there's a really this reminds me of like when you're learning to improvise, and if all you play is the blues scale or a pentatonic scale, it's going to get really bored if all you hear is na 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 over and over and over, no matter what. So if you just put in all these kind of specialty strokes, it's not really make them musically effective when you stick them in there. Okay? We need to have a brush summit. All of us.
You covered it all. We don't think we need to have a brush summit. That's amazing. Sherrie, incredible,
Thanks,
incredible class. Really gave us a lot to practice and think about. When this video is downloaded from the cloud, I'll send it over to Mike Dawson and he'll upload it to our YouTube page so that everyone really should go through this and take notes and practice all of this stuff, because what you've given us is a lifetime worth of practice material to work on. Really incredible sounds and
Thanks, Steve.
shapes, and we appreciate it. Please help me thank Sherrie Maricle again for this amazing, amazing class, everyone.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Sherrie.
One more final fun thing. Spell your name on the drum head without taking your brush off. Try to spell your name and see what shape you get in cursive.